Good evening. You're flying with Pod Squadron podcast. All wings report in. This is Andy, Pod Job, standing by.
This is Tracy, Pod Tracer, standing by.
Lexi, Pod May, standing by.
All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed experiences, and your art and inspiration from a galaxy far, far away. Today's flight plan includes a little bit of Star Wars news, some trailer reactions, also Tales of the Jedi, finally getting around to that one, and of course, our final thoughts and final reactions to the full season of Star Wars Andor. And for all of you out there, all channels are open. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. But first, I will be your squad leader for today. I'm Andy Lowe, a.k.a. the Chinese pirate, director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing, as always, is Tracy. Or co-pilot, maybe I should say.
Oh, hi, I'm Tracy. I do things, whatever.
All right, and then on my other wing is Lexi.
Hi guys, Lexi. Feral Geek Aesthetic on Instagram. I think just Feral Geek on Facebook. I don't know why I bother mentioning them. I don't post very often. I just moved this year and I'm like still recovering from that.
But you have the things.
You have the things.
Yes,
in case you do.
I have the things, just like I have a box full of cosplays I haven't taken out in a really long time. And um, yeah.
And
Well,
of
Same, to be honest.
And of course, our good friend Jason is not with us today. He is on vacation, a much deserved vacation. So, best thoughts to you, sir. Yeah, that's the squad. We are just one squad in the fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's right here on YouTube, and also find us on Facebook. There are also streams on Twitch. So, S foils to attack position. We are going in. All right. So, first things first, we're going to get into a little bit of news. We've had a couple of new trailers that dropped since we were last convened. First things first, the season 2 Bad Batch trailer. That has dropped. That is out there in the world. Any quick reactions to that?
I watched it
I
once.
guess not.
I watched it once and I don't remember it.
No. I've just been, I don't mind spoilers, but I've been a terrible Bad Batch fan for somebody who's really excited about seeing it. I'm going to go out of town later this month. And I mean, I have a giant puppy dog and she eats a lot. And so I'm just kind of at the point where I'm like not caught up on anything, but I think like Tales of the Jedi and Andor, and a lot of the news has been behind me. So I'm excited to talk about, and then I'm excited to like get everybody's impressions and then watch it and be like, oh, I agree. Oh, I don't. What are they talking about?
Well, okay. So for those of you who have seen the trailer, there are some really interesting things. It's looking to be another very cool season. We see a slightly older Omega who seems to be looking very full of agency in this season, which is kind of exciting. We're seeing a little bit more action there. They also teased a number of cool things in terms of, I know something that we had all talked about last season was really wishing Echo would have a little bit greater role, because he was very much like the conscience of the team and always kind of pushed to the back. And so they kind of teased some conversations of him kind of saying, how much should we be involved in everything that is going on? How much we should be involved with all the other clones. They did also seem to tease Cody. We get a quick glimpse of Cody as well as a quick glimpse of Rex. And I mean that's a big question. I mean, a lot of people have been asking for Cody and finding out what happened to him, if Cody is going to die, if Cody is going to be a villain, if Cody's going to come around. And maybe join Rex or something. But I mean, I think that's kind of the exciting thing to kind of see as they continue to check in on some of these other characters from the Clone Wars era that we have wondered what happened to them, right? Speaking of which, Tracy, you are donning your Wookiee hat. But there was a very special character that a lot of fans have been asking about. You want to mention who that was?
It was a Wookiee Jedi.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So if you recall, there was a very famous arc about the bunch of Jedi Padawans that was led by Ahsoka, and kind of Ahsoka kind of leading them
to find their
through,
kyber crystals. And
Gungi. We see a shot of Gungi.
Is that what his name was?
Yeah,
I totally forgot that was what his name was.
But I mean, of course, he's a fan favorite. I mean, to a certain degree, they kind of recreated Gungi in the old Republic as Buryaga, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Maybe the way that they love doing it, they'll make him like a descendant or something. I don't know.
But it should be very interesting, right? I mean, it's still the scary thing to me when anytime you bring up another Jedi, it's like either they've got to go into hiding or they have to die. And I'm like, okay, are you gonna just bring up Gungi just to break our hearts? Oh no.
Sometimes they do both.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we also have had other hints that Quinlan Voss is out there somewhere. They teased that in the Obi-Wan series. So yeah, hopefully Gungi makes it out to Quinlan Voss, somewhere in the Outer Rim, and there's an enclave, but we shall see. So that's all coming very quickly. That starts January 4th. So we actually all thought that this wasn't coming out till February, and we'd have a little bit more of a dry spell. But we are getting more new Star Wars as quickly as the beginning of the new year. So that's something to look forward to.
They must have bumped it up, because I could have sworn it was in February.
Yeah, I think you're right, because, I feel like we talked about that quite a bit.
As a February baby, I take note of things that come out in February.
It's like I do with May, so I understand that. There's a lot of Star Wars coming out, usually.
All right, on to the next thing. We also got a trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, of course, Jedi Fallen Order was the really hit game, like being hit by a tail wagging.
We haven't gotten to Tails yet.
Yes.
God.
So this was the hit game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, that stars Cal Kestis, that really took the Star Wars zeitgeist by storm when it came out. It's an EA game, first person, or I guess third person game. I actually have to admit, I only recently started playing it finally, after hearing so many great reviews, and a lot of people say that there's a lot of great story and a lot of great kind of canon callbacks that the game does, and they have long been awaiting the announcement of this sequel. So that's Star Wars Jedi Survivor. The trailer is out. Check that out. They tease some dual wielding. They tease some new gameplay. But this is a game for release March 17th. So that will be out there into the world as well.
Ooh, St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. Look at the Irish. Cal Kestis is a kind of a ginger too, isn't he? So.
Fitting that it's the kid from Shameless, right? Irish Boston.
No.
Or is it Chicago? Chicago.
He's from what?
He's from that show Shameless, and it's like an Irish family in like south side of Chicago, right?
Oh, okay. I am only familiar from him from the show Gotham, where he was kind of teased as a possible Joker, and he was.
See, I had stopped watching Gotham by then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I stretched myself watching it too long. I kept wanting it to be better than it was. It never really. Okay. And other Star Wars things, if you happen to be in the SoCal, particularly the Los Angeles area, there is something very exciting going on. Tracy, you want to give a little report on that?
So jealous. I want to hear all. Please, Tracy.
Oh, I'm not having a good hair day. Let's not do that. I had the awesome opportunity to go to the Star Wars burlesque, The Empire Strips Back, and we went for my friend Katie's birthday, and her brother got us VIP tickets, which meant that we got a free t-shirt.
Ooh.
It says Empire Strips Back, and it's not slave Leia, it's unpaid labor Leia.
And okay, make sure, presuming that this is a podcast for some, just describe it. What is the image on the shirt?
Oh, it's okay. So it's just slave. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like it's slave Leia kind of in a, like, I don't know, lingerie ad pose.
It looks like she's got like an underbust corset, but the underbust corset is the title of the show.
Yes, correct.
Nice.
That's exactly it. And it's actually, so first of all, it's hosted by Eric Calrissian, who is Lando's nephew. And he's like the comedian that comes out between each act and like tells jokes and everything like that. But this is like a legit show. I mean, even like I sent, you're not supposed to take pictures during it for obvious reasons, but my friend could not help herself and had to take like a shot. But the shot, like, you don't see anything. Like, she didn't take pictures of people's boobs or anything, but Andy's first comment was about the lighting rig, and it's like a legit, like, full-on production. These are like amazing athletes, burlesque dancers, think like Dita Von Teese, type professionalism. And the choice, it was not only like, it was super sexy, don't get me wrong, and these were, I mean, all the women were just stunningly gorgeous, and as were the men, but what's it
Yeah, I
was
was gonna say
also
it's not just ladies; it's also men's too,
there.
right?
Okay, so okay, in theory, yes, but it's also hilarious. Like, it's not just sexy, it's also hilarious. It's like 99% women, but there is a Han Solo who was like a Filipino dude who was like, oh my God, he was so good. So good. And I'm assuming that whoever was under the Chewbacca was a guy just because they were so tall. And I didn't see like any hint of bust, or I mean, it could have been a woman, I don't know, but I'm just kind of assuming that it was a guy. And they even had a little person who was like in R2D2 and a Yoda, like at the very, like Yoda didn't come out until the very, very end. It was like wrapped as part of like the finale, and it was amazing. But their music choices were so good. It was like, it wasn't all like Star Wars music. The only time they really did Star Wars music was, I think, when the dun 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 dun, dun the Imperial March, when Darth Vader came out. But oh my gosh. Okay, some of like, let me just say some of the music. There was like, so Han Solo, when he's frozen in carbonite and Leia comes in, and frees him, and like that was mostly Han Solo.
Wait, so
And
so
they
are the acts kind of based on scenes from Empire Strikes
Yes.
Back? Oh,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
goes like
Vader played by
literally
woman?
as like follows the story along, or are they
No,
just kind of
not
all?
not really. So the very first scene, you come out and it's Luke riding a tauntaun, and there's a person in a tauntaun costume like coming out, and Luke is riding it and like grinding on this tauntaun, and like partway through, like the tauntaun passes out from like the sexiness, and you're like, and like Luke eventually ends up by the tauntaun. I'm like, oh my God, she's getting in, she's getting in, she's getting in. And sure enough, she unzips this tauntaun, and like she pulls out all these like fake intestines, and like she didn't like crawl in because there's not enough space, but she like crawl, like cuddles up next to all the intestines, and and like the frozen in carbonite scene, once Han Solo is freed, it's like him and Leia dancing, and then like Greedo comes in, and Greedo's played by a woman, but like with the whole costume, and he like shoots Greedo, and then Greedo's like and it's just Smooth Criminal, Michael Jackson. Like the Imperial Guard, I'm pretty sure was to a Rihanna song, but I'm so bad with music. There was Sand People. There was like a legit ballerina there who did a duet with R2D2 as as the white, all white Leia. Let's see what else.
Okay, so it wasn't limited to Empire Strikes Back. It was full original trilogy.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
But
just
there was
random
like
scenes.
Empire
Okay,
Strikes Back has
There's-
the best fun.
right.
there's a full-on Jabba the Hutt. There's a whole there's all the characters from Jabba's palace, and they're doing it to like a Biggie song. Like it's so good. It's so good. And like that was the finale for like the the intermission, and then it comes back and it's Boba Fett with Welcome to the Jungle, and oh my God, there was a contemporary Twi'lek one, but the best one, oh my God, the best one. They must be building sets behind you, Andy.
I've been thinking that.
Yes.
And however long we've been on, I've been thinking that. Like, are we in set building? Are we in heavy set building week? Hi.
I gotta tell you about like the best act though. The best act was there's a bunch of Imperial soldiers that come out, right, and they're doing and then they're with the Emperor, and they're dancing to Total Eclipse of the Heart, right, and it's like the Emperor starts like showing some shoulder, and it's like he's like all like got barnacles everywhere and everything, and the next thing you know, he's like completely naked, and he's got like his balls are hanging down to his knees, right, and he's dancing to this, and then they bring in this giant disco ball Death Star, and he does I came in like a wrecking ball. It's so funny.
That has.
Wow.
You guys ever seen that? The burlesque where somebody does Voldemort burlesque, and it's like
I think I did see a clip of that.
it's to the Ariana Grande. You make me feel like it's Ariana Grande song, and it's Voldemort, but that gives off the same kind of energy from the
It
description.
was so good.
So then, so I take it you recommend.
Oh my God. I recommend so much. And I mean, and the cast was like probably, I mean, it was like as diverse as Hamilton. Like it was like an insanely diverse cast. It was just so good. It was so well put together. It was so funny, but also like I mean, it was sexy, but it wasn't like it wasn't um like I don't know. It wasn't like a sex show. You know what I mean? Like it was just so well done. And yeah, they're making a shit ton of money. Let me tell you that. But they also, you know, obviously spent a lot of money on the production.
I was
But
gonna say, sounds like they deserve to.
yeah,
Sounds
yeah,
like they
so
deserve
good. I
So just a
highly recommend
little
it.
bit of just a little bit, if in case you are curious. So this is running in Los Angeles
Is it a limited
through
run?
January.
My question.
Limited run. It's going till January 8th. Their tickets still available. After that, I believe
San Diego.
we are going to San Diego. And let's see here. The dates that begin February 7th, and it runs in San Diego until computer is slow. But
Don't even quote it though.
I'm trying to look up where it's going because I'm just trying to see if I can, because I've heard of the show. Like I heard of it back when it was in San Francisco, and it just never made sense for me to go. And I'm, you know, getting the play-by-play from you, and I'm like, oh, those tickets sound so worth it.
It was
It's
so good.
everything I love all in one. Like
Andy, don't even bother to lok up the run dates because they added dates to LA.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, like
So
wherever it
that
goes,
said,
it's
though,
like
but
so
it's
popular.
definitely going to San Diego starting February 7th. It does not list a closing date, so it might
Leaving
have
it
an
open.
indefinite run.
Also, special place in my heart in LA, it was at the Montalban Theater, which I used to live really close to, but I had never been inside. And there's so much con stuff inside. And I was like, I felt at home in the con theater. I was also one of the very few people wearing a mask inside the theater. But I was like, this is a lot of people. Luckily, there was like nobody in the seat next to me. And I was like, oh, thank God, like breathing room a little bit. But yeah.
So yeah, so tickets are available on Fever. Look that up if you think you'll be in LA or San Diego during any of that time. Thank you so much for that report, Tracy. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to.
Before we leave Bad Batch altogether, Peter Griffin says that he assumes sooner or later the Bad Batch will rescue Baby Yoda, and I just wanted to throw that out there.
We'll see. Yeah.
And Paul really likes Gotham and says we're missing out. So
Fair. I gave it a chance. I gave it a chance. It had its moments, but there are a lot of times when I was like, really? Okay. All right.
sometime I'll go back and binge it.
It says I like that other people feel the same way about is the way I feel about Gotham, which is like I'm like I wish I liked it more than I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I only
that was
stopped
my thing. I wanted it to like it more, and I was just like, there are times I was just like, oh, it's getting to CW again. To CW.
The only reason why I stopped was because it was on my DVR and I lost like everything that was on my DVR and I was behind. And this was before, you know, it was on any kind of stream. And so it was like, well, all right. So.
All right. But we should move on because we do have a couple things to get to. We're getting to the meat of it. We're talking about Tales of the Jedi. So this, of course, is the most recent animated series, micro-series from Dave Filoni, covering some previously underexplored points in the Star Wars timeline, with particularly around Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku. And it begins with the first episode, Life and Death, which
every
is a
time I
bit
hear
of an
Dooku,
origin.
I laugh like a 12-year-old boy. Sorry.
Yes. This starts with Life and Death, which is kind of a origin story for Ahsoka Tano. And we'll just go kind of episode by episode. We'll do quick impressions, and then we'll just do an overall like series impression, but not getting too deep into the weeds in any one episode. Quick impressions about Life and Death.
Baby Ahsoka is so cute.
Oh my goodness. I like that they bothered to go with a completely different accent from the Twi'leks for the Togruta. They kind of made it like, yeah, they made a different, they went with a different accent and you know, I mean, they always do a different culture, but I feel like sometimes we get a little bit restricted to British and American, you know, like British Isles and American, and we've got like our lone Latino Diego Luna out there. So it's kind of nice to have a whole village of a different regional accent.
It was also kind of fun to, this. I just like, I watched this. So I actually got to watch this as a preview at Star Wars Celebration, with Dave Filoni, in on stage, and kind of talking it up, before he showed it to us. And it was the thing too where I was like, I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my god, this is so David Filoni, right? All of that kind of, the use of silence, the use of just action and non-dialogue, the kind of mystic, almost anime slash, Kurosawa of it all, and kind of like, just, yeah, I mean,
he loves doing creatures too,
yeah, the kind of nature versus humanity, thing, and the themes of like, of the basis of fear, and kind of using this kind of idea of Ahsoka as a child with no fear, and therefore nothing to create conflict. I was like, yeah, this is so Filoni.
It was the only one of the episodes I felt like was really predictable, but I didn't really, because we knew that Ahsoka was going to tame the big kitty, right? But
of course,
but it was so cute. It kind of reminded me of the little Grogu cartoons. Like, it was just super cute.
And we got to see baby.
Wait, did I say Grogu? I meant Baby Groot.
Oh.
There we go.
Any other things we want to say about that before we move on to the next one?
I think there's more meat on the next ones.
Fair enough.
Let's
move
chew on it.
to Justice. So Justice was the first episode, kind of introducing us to a young Jedi. Well, not really young, a younger Jedi Master Dooku, with his young Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn.
Post Rat Tail, though. After Rat Tail stage.
But voiced by Liam Neeson's son, to get a younger voice,
who goes by the name Richardson professionally.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because his mom was Miranda Richardson.
Yeah. But yeah, any thoughts on this?
Let's see. This one was really dark. This one was like,
I mean, these were all very dark, and honestly, I gotta say, as much of an Ahsoka head as I am, I really enjoyed all of the three episode Dooku arc, in terms of really kind of watching his descent.
We don't get a lot of backstory on him in any of the main films.
Yeah. And why he is the way he is. Yeah.
Even in Clone Wars, we already see him as like a man decided.
Yeah.
He's already picked a side. In this series, I loved that you got to see that he's always been somebody who has convictions.
Yeah.
And you get to see when those are challenged.
It's also interesting too to really kind of add some meat to this, the failings of the Jedi Order too, right? Because that is the recurring theme in all three of these, is Dooku seeing how the Jedi way has failed the people, and as this idea that once you start serving the Republic, thinking that the public is the will of the people, you are not
basically
serving the
glorified
people.
bodyguards for the wealthy, diplomats. This one was the hardest one, I think, for me to watch, just because I have a tough time with people being like really mistreated, and it felt almost like Holocausty to me while watching it. And like as much as a cartoon can make you can make somebody feel and look so gaunt and colorless. Like they kind of nailed that. And this is not my favorite animation style. I know I've discussed that before on the show, but they did a really good job of making the people just look very pitiful
Yeah.
to a point where it's hard. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, that is
Even the loader droid, which I kind of loved.
yeah. Oh, that was I was gonna say, we've had an issue with other shows being to tell, don't show, and that was one of those perfect little show don't tell moments. Where you walk up and the loader droid's just like doing my best.
Hmm. And the sun like standing up, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just as bad to sit by and do nothing as it is to actively participate sometimes, And so for the sun to kind of stand up and say, no, this isn't right. Now that I've seen this and I know what's going on, I can't look away now. I think that was a good lesson for a lot of people, especially in this day and age with this kind of weird swing of, whatever politics we're going through.
If anybody is better read on what's coming up, the fact that they have that listed as season 1 and not a mini series, there's going to be more is implying. I'm hoping.
We can talk about that when we get to.
But I mean, if there is, it would be interesting to see in the long-term plot arc if that senator's son actually does jack shit.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I would like to see that.
Because that would be part of, that could have a lot of ripple effects, and what with the way that especially now with the additional parts of the timeline being expanded upon, I think it'd be really interesting to see if part of what doesn't erode people's trust so much that the empire ends up coming to fruition is because of things like this, where the senator sounds like, I'm going to make sure something changes, and then he never does.
Well, so let's use this as an opportunity. Let's jump ahead to choices, which kind of thematically kind of explores some very similar ground, right? Where in this one we see now it's Dooku no longer with Master Qui or with Padawan Qui-Gon, but with Mace Windu, right? And they come across another similar situation where a senator is ultimately kind of exploiting the people he represents, or not representing the people that he is charged with representing, and taking personal gain. And there's so many interesting bits of dialogue and just kind of quiet, silent jabs between Windu and Dooku through the whole episode, where there is a whole ideological difference, and it has to do with Mace Windu, who is a rule follower, and Dooku, who is questioning those rules, right? And it is so fascinating because it is very clear that Windu will advance, and we know where Windu ends up, basically being the second in command of the council. And whereas it is a thing where I think they do a great job of questioning or getting us as an audience to question whether or not that was a good thing for Windu to take that second spot.
The thing that struck me about this episode in particular was when Dooku said to the soldier guy, like I don't agree with your methods, but I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah.
And but looking ahead and knowing the choices that Dooku eventually makes, like in his tactics that he took, like did he do any better? Was he even worse? Like, that right. I found like just a really interesting juxtaposition.
I feel like if they do more episodes of this, it will kind of lead to where you see him slip from saying, well, I don't agree with your methods, to thinking maybe this guy's methods were necessary, kind of, which would put him to a certain point, which means that at a certain point we'll see him be kind of
Well,
a
I think we
type
see that
person.
though. I think we get to
Yeah.
see that
Sure,
in the
but they
next
kind of
episode,
jump
right?
ahead. They kind of jump.
We got to see his Luthen phase, and it was short.
Well, I mean, okay, in the next
Yeah.
episode, Sith Lord, we see what pushes him over the edge, right? I mean, he does make that comment about, I don't agree with your choices, and it gets to the point of when Qui-Gon is killed, in his opinion, as a result of the council's arrogance
Inaction, yeah.
and inaction. That's the final straw, and that's when he's like, no, I have no other choice. Which is such a really interesting, counterpoint to the previous episode, right? It is exactly what you're describing, Lexi. And we see that kind of ideological divide kind of personified in getting to see Yaddle more than we've gotten to see,
I know.
from Yaddle,
I
which
knew
is like so heartbreaking too, because now
I knew
you've
they were
given
gonna
us
kill-
all this Yaddle, and Yaddle is so interesting, and
I
the
knew
voice
that was-
performance from Bryce Dallas Howard is
knew they were
really
gonna
quite
kill him.
lovely, and it's like, oh my god, she's gonna die.
I
Oh
knew-
my
I
god,
knew they were gonna do. I knew
screw
that
you,
was-
Filoni.
Andy, let her say something.
No, he always lets us talk over him. And
That's
but I just knew that they were gonna have to kill her off in this. Not like she wasn't gonna have an off-screen death. She had to have an on-screen death because they were giving her so much time,
Yeah,
and the more that especially a storyteller like Filoni, especially somebody from that school of thought, the more that they build you up into liking somebody, that the more strategically means that they're just gonna and get them, the plot's just gonna shank them hard.
yeah.
I have to watch. So
Another really cool moment is getting to see the moment when he deletes Camino from the archives, and a quick little bit of Jocasta Nu, right?
Did we know that it was Dooku who deleted?
I mean,
Camino?
it was implied in Attack of the Clones, but it wasn't necessarily said. I mean, it could have been Sifo Dyas, it could have been Dooku, but
it was a good little bit of espionage.
yeah.
And just as a refresher, Camino was the cloning planet.
Facility.
Yeah, there's the whole exchange where, Yoda is with the younglings and he's like, "Oh, Master Obi-Wan has lost the planet. How embarrassing."
Did we know that Yaddle died, or was the Yaddle one of the considerations for being a saver? One of the people who could have saved Grogu.
I believe, like, no, she it was just a loose end. Like they had
Yeah,
this
that's what I
character
thought.
in episode 1. They never addressed why she was not.
That actually
Uh,
sad. I was hoping she'd maybe be out there, but
Yeah,
no, they didn't give us that.
but it is some level of closure, so it's like, okay.
I don't like it.
But also, yeah. So
I'm
Yaddle-
codependent. I'm codependent.
I'm with you on that. It's
before
like,
before we leave Yaddle does not talk like Yoda.
yes, that was also very interesting to make that decision.
Mhm.
Yeah. So is it like which makes me more? I hope they do an episode on why Yoda talks the way he does.
So
That
there,
would be
there
really
was,
interesting.
So there was an
He's older.
well, okay, so there was an interview with Filoni, and Filoni basically just did a typical Filoni throwaway answer. It's like, well, Yoda speaks that way in homage to his master, which is like, oh, you son of a bitch.
I've heard that
Filoni,
theory before,
you
but we
just
don't know
throwing
who
it out there. We don't
know who Yoda's master was. Like, I want to see why. I want to
Yeah.
see. I hope they tell that story.
And of course, I still have my theory, which still holds true, of how his speech pattern implies kind of Yoda's priorities and logic base.
Maybe it's how the Yoda species is dyslexic or something.
I mean, his answer seemed to imply that it made that thing specific to Yoda and not Yoda's species.
Right.
Just
But
sort of weirdly where I was going with, maybe it's because he's older, like he's just been meditating so much where he's like, it comes out the way I want it to. And if it's confusing for you, then that's a you problem, honey.
Like I said, he is very focused on action and not individuals, which is why he's so reckless with lives of other people's lives.
Yeah,
problem is yours. It is.
He's like a sequoia tree where he's like, care not I for the bugs on my branch.
Yeah, I thought this was a very cool episode. It's also, of course, always great to see Sidious kind of pulling the strings and see how he's really able to kind of manipulate. It was also really cool to see Qui-Gon go to Sidious and say, "Screw you, man. This was not part of the deal. You had my Padawan killed.
Yeah.
This is messed up." And of course, the next thing that happens is he's forced to choose.
He's like, "Oh, you think that's fucked up? How about you?
How about you kill your buddy, your buddy Yaddle?"
Although I will say that the Emperor and I have the same reaction to the sun, just like.
Yeah, a lot of, and of course, all the great kind of visual imagery and visual storytelling, the idea of, using that doorway as the light and you can come out of the shadow and all that good stuff.
And they still made her really badass. I mean, like she lifted that whole door.
She lifts the whole door. You get a giant smile, big pumpkin smile out of it. Good stuff. Yeah, no, I love that arc. I love like the whole Dooku arc. I just thought was so interesting. And kind of I love kind of tragic fall character arcs.
It's also interesting because the title of it is the Sith Lord, which is like at the beginning of the episode seems like it's referencing who Qui-Gon was talking about, and then
right.
You're like, oh, it's actually talking about Dooku being, being a Sith, and then, trading his loyalty to the Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Doesn't he get butthurt that there's another Sith Padawan? Am I remembering that correctly? Like he finds like the Emperor mentions Darth Maul, and he gets a little butthurt.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the first time that we've confirmed that like the apprentices might know of each other. I think it has been implied, right?
Oh no, because Maul killed Qui-Gon. That's how he found out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of it's still the whole mythology of. I mean, I guess you know what? Maybe he was not declared as Darth Tyrannus yet until this moment, I guess, right?
Well, they're only supposed to have one apprentice, though.
Well, I mean, that's the rule, but that's a rule I fully expect a Sith Lord to break in order to,
kind of like an emperor and concubine.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of pitting them against one another, and goes,
wants his strongest, or like the bastard children. He's like, well, I'll see which heir is the strongest. I'll name you legitimate.
I mean, for that matter, he was kind of grooming. God, that has such a different meaning now. Grooming Anakin the whole time.
But I mean, he was. Anakin was a child. So yes, he was.
Yeah, that's an appropriate word.
Literally grooming him. While to the point
it was
that
the
Emperor
who cut off the rat tail. That's
yes.
We'll just take care of it. We'll make you handsome.
Oh,
but of course, I mean, thinking back to that scene in the opening scene in Revenge of the Sith, right? I mean, the kind of look of shock that Darth Tyrannus gives to the Emperor when he says, "Kill him, do it." Yeah, it's more context to that. Okay, the final episode.
Speaking of child abuse, the next episode.
Practice makes perfect. So this is seeing a section of time for Ahsoka, or actually I guess it spans a whole like much of Ahsoka's career. Seeing Ahsoka being trained by Anakin, and it's this conceit that they start off with training her with remote droids, where she just has to defend herself against a bunch of
Which is the class
drones.
standard.
And Anakin's
But
like,
it's not real
that's
life.
not real. That's not real life, and it's not as predictable as what droids will do. And he starts her on this regimen to train with Rex and the troopers, who are working with stun bolts. And she, over the years, continues to train against Rex and her clones, which of course culminates in the the
Order
battle,
66.
the Order 66 battle from season 7 of
Yeah.
Clone Wars, where this time it's for real. She and Rex are facing off against
Mhm.
all
Oh,
of
I
these
love when Rex
clones.
says, "Let's hope it was all worth it."
Yeah.
let's see if it worked.
Yeah.
to recontextualize that scene. Thoughts about this one?
Kind of, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily the intended commentary, but it kind of reminded me of like sometimes like manifesting your own worst fears. Good job, Anakin. Like he literally played a part in that happening. And that was what he trained her so hard to try to get out of. And he ended up being one of the people who brought it to fruition, that whole situation.
Did some part of him know that it was coming though? Because it's like he's specifically preparing
I
her to
don't know
survive
if it's
because he cares about
necessarily-
her.
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily so much that he knew it was coming, so much as like that, kind of dark side mentality, intuition of his was something that the Emperor wanted and exploited. It was something that already like he had in common. And he's like, all right, well, let's just bring it out of him. And that's something I would do anyway. If that, the kind of thing that you're afraid about, of course I'm going to have you be my right hand man. If, you think that kind of stuff is.
Hey, Andy, they're back.
It's really interesting to me. This was a topic that we talked a little bit about when we were going through some of the Clone Wars episodes back in ye old day. But this kind of continuing theme of Anakin being hard on Ahsoka in ways that being the mentor that he had never had, and for her to experience his version of tough love, except with there actually being love behind it that Anakin never really had or never knew how to process.
And then you also think about the fact that a lot of the kids who went into the Jedi Order got inducted sooner than Anakin. He experienced a lot more hardship and loss. A lot of the other Padawans, their first major loss was their family.
Right.
And they at least know their family's alive out there somewhere, as opposed to, Anakin.
Well, I think the thing that I've always found interesting is this idea that Anakin taught Ahsoka to have and acknowledge her connections and her attachments, whereas he was, vehemently told not to.
Well, he was told not to, but look how Obi-Wan actually behaved.
Yes, but ultimately, inadvertently, Ahsoka is better adjusted, and her trust in Anakin is what saves her from Vader, right? To a certain degree, is that she is still able to have a belief in the training that Anakin gave her, and that is her saving grace that keeps her from becoming a Vader herself, so to speak.
Oh yeah, She had a better sense of boundaries if we're going to talk in modern terminology.
Right. Um, I mean, and for that matter, it's like, that scene with her versus the clones in Order 66. It's still the thing too, where, she turns to Rex and says, "We're not them, and they don't have the choice right now. You turn your weapon to stun, and we're not killing any of these people, right? Because they are your brothers. They will die, but we're not going to be the ones to make that judgment on them," which is that interesting high road, and how she still is able to apply her survival with also maintaining her soul. Um, yeah, I just thought it's interesting.
Well, I mean, it kind of leads to her eventually having the white lightsabers.
Right.
But she doesn't
where
have,
she becomes Gandalf the White.
yeah, basically,
Ahsoka the
like
White.
she's like, I transcend factions. It kind of goes with that whole Shadow Jedi thing. There's a part of me that really hopes that they go more into that mythology, more with Force users that are guided by the Bendu, like Kanan and Ezra were. I hope that further series get into that, because that was such a fascinating part for me. And whether or not Ahsoka ever has or had any connection with that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling I hope they get into that with the Ahsoka series a little bit more, and they
Because it
get
would explain
into
her "I am no Jedi,"
Yeah.
it would form a really neat package for that.
Well, particularly, and the next episode, Resolve, of course, establishes that she does go to Naboo for the funeral of Padme, and she's sneaking around. She gets found by the Organas, by Senator by Bail
Okay,
Organa.
I love how he doesn't care how nutty he looks to those troopers. It's just like, fuck, I don't care what these guys think of me. If you need help, let me know. And they're like, yes, sir. Like, politician, man, am I right?
But yeah, I mean, it's also interesting to see this is the moment where she is recruited to become Fulcrum, right? Which is even more interesting now, that we have been introduced to Luthen, and we are watching Luthen as basically an engineer of the early rebellion, or rather an engineer of the early Rebel Alliance, and who has basically had to embrace a dark side path in order to launch that effort. And we can presume that Fulcrum, Ahsoka, did not have to make that same choice and lose her soul, and still accomplish some of that groundwork on her own front. And I do hope they explore some of that as a counterpoint to Luthen, at some point, because I think that's a really interesting topic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would be interesting. We've seen some there's been a lot of animated to live action recently. It would be kind of cool if they just kind of pulled it over and like, oh look, animated Luthen.
Yeah. Or maybe even see, are Luthen and Ahsoka in like ideological conflict ever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but that said, we also get kind of another face off with her and a new Inquisitor that we hadn't seen before.
I mean, can you
Great
call it
character design?
Actually, you can call it a face off.
Yeah, I was gonna say we see him, but we're not gonna see him again.
Right.
I was like, I don't know if you're. No, wait, that's a perfect description. Good job.
One pump chump.
He was so confident too. Bless him.
He reminded me. He reminded me. He reminded me a little bit of 45 because he's like, "Oh, thanks for your loyalty. I'm gonna punish you for it." Woo!
And then also, I'm gonna kick at it. So, it reminded me, like, it felt like it pulled some elements from the extended universe Legends
Yeah.
of her being in like a laboring or farming town, and a young woman with a kind of sketchy brother taking an interest, like a brother who wasn't so sure about her taking an interest in her for whatever reason. And I think in like the EU Legends, the girl had a crush on her. They didn't really elaborate on that in this, but I mean, I feel like they took something from some elements from that, of her being in a blue collar community.
Yeah, and I believe that, and I
trying
believe
to fly under the radar and having to leave ultimately because she tried to stand by her ideals. She couldn't see somebody get hurt.
Yeah, I believe actually that's been a bit of point of controversy among some fans, who feel that this episode does end up retconning the Ahsoka novel a bit. And of course they never quite.
That's cute. Stop it. Shut up. Just enjoy it. You all complaining for, god damn, like they make it something completely different, and then it doesn't follow EU Legends. They make it like a tip of the hat to EU Legends, and people are like losing their minds. So come on.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, and to me, I don't know. It's not different enough to me that it really overrides the novel, right? Because the novel gets into the potential relationship a little bit more.
Yeah,
right.
they just didn't have time to develop that. It would have.
Yeah, didn't have time. We can still presume that.
We could. I mean, they could have done things, but it also. And I say this as somebody who would really love for somebody to have a bi crush on Ahsoka. I mean, as somebody who probably does have one herself, that is like that. Like I would love for that to be in canon, and for Ahsoka to not necessarily like turn her down the way she never actually turned her down in the books.
Yeah.
But I would love that. But I also understand how many additional hours of writer's room that would take, and how many additional of storyboarding that would take to make it not shoehorned in, because it's got to be nuanced and beautiful the way it should be. And these episodes were great, but they were short, so nuance was not really.
Peter's asking what was different about the legend beside her bleeding the crystals.
Well, I mean, okay, that said, I mean, the novel goes past this incident, right? The novel does actually name the Inquisitor as Sixth Brother, which the episode does not. But I mean, all the story points are still there, and it's like literally, it's a couple of like the first few chapters of the Ahsoka novel. That is what is represented, and it's like the same story bullet points. The details are a little different. I personally didn't feel like it was so different that it undid anything.
Yeah, I felt like, okay, I the way that I felt is that we're trying to build a universe here, and we've got cultures of all different technology levels, all different types of cultures, a lot of them with oral traditions, and even within our own history of written traditions, how many different versions are there of the same story?
Right. And of course, you also have to ask the question of what is the point of telling this particular story in this context. These moments and these story points serve the purpose of telling why and when Ahsoka decided to help Bail with the rebellion. Versus Ahsoka's novel,
which is about her emotional journey to like, I deserve kyber crystals again. I mean, that's vague. That's grossly oversimplifying it. Sorry, Andrew.
But but that's right. That's absolutely right.
It's like coming back into her power, which they beautifully hint at by her just grabbing that Inquisitor saber and being like,
Yeah.
"Nuh-uh," and pulling a Yoda and just turning.
Not today, Satan.
And I was like, child, you need to calm the down, and just like powering down that saber, which you don't see many other Force users able to do. Command somebody else's weapon. Like it takes a lot to do that. In fact, even though I feel like even though a lot of like the more powered up Sith could do it, you don't usually see them do it because they don't necessarily have the focus or the will to not harm. They just want to like Hulk smash things. So with the Force, so you don't see them going, I'm just gonna, it's like a really, every time I've seen that happen, where they have a Jedi power down another Force user's, like a Force user power down another Force user's kyber weapon, it kind of has that, I have not the patience to deal with this today. Let me take the fork out of your hand before you stick it in the fucking socket. And it always has that energy to it, and I love the way they do it. And I love that they gave Ahsoka that moment before she's all, beautifully long Leku and still is like, you get to see it.
So any final thoughts before we end for the evening on Tales of the Jedi?
They better make a second set of them.
Yeah, I hope so. And I don't even know if I want more of Dooku and Ahsoka. I kind of actually hope that,
As a character,
yeah, I mean, there's so many other characters that we could get more into. I mean, they could do a cool six micro episode adaptation of the whole Quinlan and Asajj Ventress thing, right?
Yeah.
To see some of that dramatized, or
I would love that.
Or some of the other characters that are out there, right?
The Kanan, they could go into, if they're already kind of pulling from Legends, they could pull from like when Kanan meets Hera.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. I'm sure they're gonna divulge a little bit of what happened to Ezra Bridger and Thrawn, right? Once we get to that and some of the upcoming
I hope that's in
stuff, but
into Ahsoka, but I mean, maybe they'll want to tomorrow. I don't know. Okay.
Great. All right. That's about it for tonight. So thanks for joining us for these talks. We're going to jump into crosstalk as we bring on the folks from Geek Beast. Are they here? Are they ready to go? Are they rip roaring ready? There they are. Gentlemen. I just imagine Mr. Han from Enter the Dragon for some reason. It's like, gentlemen, we have your gratitude. I don't know, that's a total non sequitur.
It's okay, we're good at those.
Chuck and Johnny, how's it going, man?
It's going well. How you
doing,
doing,
everybody? How y'all doing tonight?
Doing okay. Hey, so how are you guys caught up on? How caught up are you guys on all of the Star Warses and everything?
Very caught up.
Yeah, I think I'm about as caught up on everything.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the
all
Bad
but the
Batch to kick off in
There's a couple
January.
novels. Yeah.
Did you guys see the new trailer? The new Bad Batch trailer?
Yes.
Oh, good, you're ahead of me.
Yes.
Again, I think Star Wars, its animated properties, and these last go arounds have just been outstanding. And I think the Bad Batch continues in that type of trajectory. Where they left us off in season 1, I thought was awesome, and I can't wait to jump back into that world again.
Yeah, it's so fun to kind of pick up on these little threads in the canon.
It's not just good for a show where one guy talks to himself a lot. It's just good for an animated show, period.
Yeah, it's such a good show.
It is.
And Omega's one of my favorite characters.
Omega. I'm really excited for Uncle Ricka.
Yeah. I'm really excited. Like I love the way they left Crosshair.
Yeah.
Oh,
still
that
ambiguous.
Reveal was the greatest, one of the best reveals in Star Wars canon.
Yeah, and the trailer touches on it just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I'm quite excited. Quite
Yeah,
excited.
Me too.
Yeah. Are y'all excited for Ahsoka, the series?
Yeah, you know.
I heard a little bit of your talk.
Lexi.
Well, it's also interesting. There were some rumors that were swirling as people are starting to find out a little bit more about Skeleton Crew as well, right? And that there are now rumors that Skeleton Crew might spin off from Ahsoka and might have to do with a new realm of Star Wars space that has not been in, possibly related to World Between Worlds.
What?
Which is, you know,
potential for Ahsoka, right? I mean, we still her own story in herself.
Right.
We still got Ezra, we still got Thrawn, we still got overlays with this. It's like it's a lot that we can spin off from it. I think this series,
the Acolyte.
Oh, and that was another bit of exciting thing, that I think it's actually been officially confirmed that Lars Mikkelsen is taking on Thrawn live action, which is great to hear.
That is awesome to hear.
It's like
Lexi's like, I don't want to hear any of this.
Angels from heaven.
Yeah, I was I'm also hoping that they'll get back to having, you know, some Cad Bane, since they hinted at him being like, I just like I love when they bring the voice actors in.
Give me some Corey Burton.
I have a question. Did y'all see the video game awards?
I missed that actually.
Okay.
I mean, I did see the trailer for Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
After the fact, but that. So I gotta say, I have only recently started playing Fallen Order, so I do not have as much connection. Like, all the visuals don't have like meaning to me yet, but it looks great. I mean, and I am enjoying Fallen Order. It just takes so much more time for me to get through games these days.
Yeah, I haven't played Fallen Order yet.
Oh,
so
you haven't?
I have to play it, so I do
Yeah.
have to play it.
I've played Fallen Order. That's saying something.
It's just a time thing. It's just a time
I'm in my late 40s, man. It's harder to get through games.
It's hard.
In my head, I'm in my late 40s.
Yeah, it's harder these days. You know?
And I'm not the same person.
So also, okay, I want to get back to the how your guys' impressions overall of Andor.
I thought it was good. I thought they could have shortened it. It was a lot of walking and talking. It was very
really? Oh, okay. I see. Okay, I love the kind of walkie and talkie of it all.
Okay. So you're a big fan of Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
yes.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm a big fan of House of Cards. And and for me, it was touching on like a Star Wars House of Cards in ways that like got into like ideology and got into the, you know, gray morality. So it was hitting all those notes for me, which
world building with every step.
It was very espionage genre with a lot of like, you know, dialogue
and the political intrigue
and that's not everybody's cup of tea. It's not always mine. Always, but
the only thing
there was just enough Star Wars in this one that it was my cup of tea, that I went, you know what? Yeah, that's, you know, something I can tolerate that pace for. So I understand why some people had a little bit less for tolerance of it. And I can respect people being like, oh, not my style. And people are like, I didn't think it was good because, man.
I just didn't know why we needed it.
Really?
Why did we need it? I don't know that it added anything to Star Wars. We got Rogue One and all of those characters died. We know.
I want to know where those characters came from, like why they were willing to die for what.
Yeah. I was very pulled in by the idea of, you know, the interworkings of like what brings a society to the point of rebellion, right?
Why did Mon Mothma,
like non-force users, not people who have like, well, I can just whip out my fucking laser sword.
And I get that. I just didn't think it added more than Rebels did to me, and I didn't necessarily understand why we needed
Rebels. We still had a force user though.
I think they absolutely did. They absolutely did. I just thought it was okay. I really did. I thought it was okay.
To me, like the dimension that really hits me the most for this is this idea of a morally gray area that that is at the heart of, it's because that was the thing, right? With Rebels it was great, we see kind of people being inspired and whatnot, but it was always very, very safe and playing off of the George Lucas playbook of the good guys, wear white, the bad guys wear black, whatever like that.
Zeb leaves Ezra behind, and everybody's like, Zeb, that was
Right.
very bad of you. You know what I mean? Like,
but this idea, but introducing this idea of Luthen as, sometimes you need a hammer to, to sometimes you need to engage in morally gray things to
crack some
get
eggs to make a freaking omelet.
yeah, that I think is what intrigues me the most, and I'm very excited about learning more about Luthen, whether he's right or wrong, and having that discourse of is he really at the heart of every good movement.
I felt like Andor was about Marva Andor, like she was the catalyst.
Yeah.
to the
Well,
revolution.
I mean, I think that is, I mean, that's a great scene where, after Luthen has made this huge declaration of him having to sacrifice his soul and take on the tactics of the Sith and the evil, towards a greater ends. And of course, he is confronted with, well, number one, not only the real sacrifice of a community, fighting the fight that he's been, trying to inspire, but also seeing Marva as, maybe I'm wrong, right? It doesn't take individuals to calculate and undermine. Maybe it takes community, and maybe that's what I got wrong, right? It's such an interesting. There's so many ways to interpret that scene.
Which, I mean, in support of that interpretation, there's the part that they choose to include about Nemec's manifesto about people don't know they're in a rebellion.
Yeah.
They don't have to all have the exact same cause. They don't have to have the exact same message, same cell, same mission. They're just opposing this common evil.
I know one thing.
These little individual acts of personal rebellion can fuel a larger one. Anyway.
I'm gonna say Kino Loy doesn't survive some form of fashion, and then we failed. Star Wars Andor failed.
I would love more Kino Loy.
We need more Kino Loy.
Come back. He needs to come back.
I'm just waiting for a post credits cameo from Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, like, because they misunderstood and thought he said Martha.
Right? Yes. That's Randy's favorite scene in that movie.
You went there.
That's Randy's favorite.
Don't get me started.
That's his favorite scene.
As a DC fan, don't get me started.
Oh God, I can.
He said it was Oscar award winning scene.
I would love to get into how you feel about. Okay, well, we got to end the show. So we're gonna end the show, but I imagine I'm gonna be listening in to you guys, because I'm imagining you guys gonna talk about all the craziness over there as the upheaval continues, despite new leadership.
Yeah.
There's
a lot going on there.
Yeah, I'm not
a lot
opposed
going
to some of those moves.
Neither am I.
Going on in that
I mean, there are things that make me sad because I would like to see more Henry Cavill, but I mean, I get it. It's a mess over there.
Yeah, it is. I think they're ready themselves for the sale, and Amazon is like doing this.
Well, they've
Amazon's
outsourced some of their
like,
animation to Amazon.
Amazon.
Oh, to Amazon, really?
It was to Amazon.
They've got some joint collaborations coming
DC
up.
Animation went
Yeah,
out to
DC.
Amazon.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
See,
it's
I think there was
really
so much speculation over Comcast Universal being like the bigger player, but
I think
Yeah.
Amazon is hearing that and throwing kind of, they're kind of
interesting.
then hey, we look sexy too over here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think they're doing.
We can
right.
do
The
Lord of the
library.
Rings.
Right,
We can do
exactly. We
walking
can do
and
Lord of the
talking.
Rings, right.
Walking and talking great. And then you yell Martha a million times if you want to yell Martha.
Right, exactly.
So you want to hear more of that? Stick around for Geek Beast. They are coming up next. Thank you for joining us here. This is our last episode of the year, guys. Thank you so much for being on this road with us all this year as we've talked through everything Star Wars this year. But we will be back in the new year with the upcoming Bad Batch series or season 2. So be on the lookout for that, and please check out everything else here on the Geekish Network, everything that is on YouTube and on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe to all the channels, and check for all the other great shows like Geek Beast coming right up. Also, look out for Rodney has started doing weekly game streams again, so you can watch out for. On Mondays, he's doing Marvel Snap. On Wednesdays, he's doing World of Warcraft. On Friday nights, he's doing Fortnights. All the times are after the podcast stream, so check that out on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Geekish Network. Thank you on the deck once again to Rodney. Also, we are the Pod Squadron. Please check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am the Chinese Pirate at Chinese Pirate _ on all platforms.
Do that every time, please.
Every time.
Perfect Wookiee.
Accents impeccable. All right. So we had that was Hot Nerd Girl. For those of you who do not speak Sherry Wook, that was Hot Nerd Girl. Hot Nerd Girl official. Pharaoh here. And please come back in January. Watch us talk about D. Bradley Baker talking to D. Bradley Baker talking to D. Bradley Baker.
And yes, of course, also a shout out to our buddy at Beyond Forever Studios, Jason. We're thinking of you. Have a great holiday, everyone. As we head into the colder and wetter times.
You guys definitely live in California.
Yes, we live in California.
I thought you loved Colorado cold.
Hey, it sort of rained for 2 days. I mean, come on.
It rained in the mornings. It rains at night.
It's just cold and dry here. The next couple of days, it's going to be between 12 and 18 degrees at night, and about 30 to 40 during the day.
You have fun with that.
The tundra.
My heating works great. Look, I'm wearing shorts.
All wings return to base. Course laid in and prepare to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, the truths we cling to depend on your own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. Good night. That's Shriwuk for I have to pee.
Yes, it was. That's exactly what I said.